A quiet hum echoed through the walls of the space station, a constant reminder of the vast emptiness beyond. The station, known as Vanguard 9, had been orbiting Earth for over a decade, scanning the planet for any signs of unusual activity. It was a routine mission, one that had become predictable. That was, until the transmission came through. It was just a whisper at first, an odd flicker of static on their radar. The team monitoring communications wasn't sure what they had picked up. The signal was encrypted, a language they had never encountered. But when the data packet was decoded, the words hit them like a slap in the face. The message was clear, but the tone was urgent, desperate. "They're waking it up. We're all doomed." For a moment, no one spoke. The room fell silent as the crew exchanged confused glances. This was no ordinary distress signal. It was a cry for help. But the source of the signal was even more puzzling. It came from deep within the Earth's crust, from a location that was supposed to be uninhabited, a place that no one had dared explore in centuries. The lead technician, Lisa Thompson, quickly ran the coordinates. Her face grew pale as the location was mapped out on the screen. This can't be right," she muttered under her breath. The signal originated from an ancient, forgotten site beneath the Earth's surface, hidden from all known records. The officer in charge of Vanguard 9, Commander Rail Daxon, stood from his seat and crossed the room. His cold, calculating demeanor showed no sign of concern. "Earth? A backwater planet," he said, dismissing the idea with a wave of his hand. "We've studied it for centuries. Nothing there is of importance. There's no reason for us to waste time on a primitive planet." Lisa tried to speak, but Commander Daxon wasn't listening. He was more interested in his own beliefs about the insignificance of Earth. "We have better things to do than worry about some meaningless signal from a planet that can barely even handle space travel," he continued. His words, filled with arrogance, rang hollow in the room. But then, just as the technician was about to respond, the signal came again. This time, it wasn't just a distress message. It was a plea for help. "They're coming. It's already started. They won't stop. They never do." Commander Daxon's expression changed slightly. There was a shift, a flicker of unease, but he quickly masked it with his usual dismissive attitude. "Fine, run another scan, but don't expect me to entertain fantasies about Earth's importance." Despite his words, the atmosphere in the room was tense. Something about this was off, and for the first time in years, Commander Daxon felt the uneasy sensation of something beyond his control. While Daxon tried to downplay the situation, Lisa and the rest of the crew couldn't ignore the message. They didn't have answers, only more questions. What was it that was being awakened? Who were the ones sending these frantic messages from below? And why did they sound so terrified? Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was happening beneath the surface of Earth was something far more dangerous than anyone had ever realized. The crew began to work quickly, scrambling to decode more information from the signal. Every attempt to pinpoint the source seemed to bring more questions. But one thing was certain. Something was buried deep within Earth, something the aliens had clearly feared. And whatever it was beginning to stir once more. Back on Earth, a team of humans was already gathering information about this ancient mystery. Ethan Carter, an archaeologist and military strategist, had spent years researching Earth's ancient history. His work had always seemed like a distant academic pursuit until now. He had been studying old records, long-forgotten scrolls, and strange artifacts for clues that hinted at a forgotten era of technological brilliance, an era that was wiped out before humanity even left its atmosphere. Ethan had been skeptical at first, just like many others. The idea that humanity could have once possessed such advanced technology was a difficult concept to grasp. But when he was approached by the military with classified information, his skepticism turned into curiosity. A group of scientists had recently discovered an enormous structure buried deep beneath the Earth's surface, a massive warship hidden from all human knowledge for centuries. The ship was unlike anything ever recorded, built using materials and technology that didn't belong to any known civilization. And the more Ethan dug into the data, the more he realized that this warship wasn't just a relic. It was far from inactive. While the rest of the world remained oblivious to the potential threat, Ethan and a small team of trusted scientists began working with the military to investigate. They had no idea what they were dealing with. All they knew was that this ancient warship was somehow still operational, and its power could change the course of history. But what they didn't know was that it wasn't just the humans who had taken notice. The Galactic Council, a powerful alliance of advanced civilizations, had been monitoring Earth for years, dismissing it as a backwater planet, nothing more than a curiosity. They saw humans as primitive and unimportant, easily controlled, easy to ignore. But this warship, this hidden relic from Earth's ancient past, had caught their attention. They had sensed its activation, and they were coming. Back on Vanguard 9, Commander Daxon finally conceded to a deeper investigation, though still unconvinced. "Fine, send a reconnaissance team. We'll see what all this fuss is about. But we're not wasting valuable resources on a planet that barely matters in the grand scheme of things." As his orders were relayed, Daxon's mind began to wander. What if the rumors were true? What if Earth's long-forgotten warship was somehow more than just a relic? What if it held the key to something far beyond what they could imagine? The thought gnawed at him, despite his efforts to push it aside. The reconnaissance team was deployed, and they made their way to the location marked by the mysterious signal. The deeper they ventured, the more intense the strange energy signatures became. Something ancient, something powerful, was awakening. Back on Earth, Ethan's team had managed to gain access to the warship's control room. They marveled at its design, completely alien yet somehow familiar. As they examined the ship's systems, an eerie hum reverberated throughout the chamber. It was as if the warship was alive, waking from a long slumber. And then, without warning, a deep voice echoed through the control room. "Who dares to awaken me?" The voice was not human. It wasn't even of this galaxy. And yet, it seemed to speak directly to Ethan's mind. "Who are you?" Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I am the last of my kind," the voice responded. "I am the weapon that your ancestors built. I was meant to protect, but I was buried. Now, they are coming. They have found me." The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the walls of the ancient warship began to glow with an otherworldly light. The ship was waking up, and with it, the dormant power of humanity's ancient war machine. Ethan's heart raced as he realized the full scale of the situation. This wasn't just about uncovering an ancient artifact. The Galactic Council had been monitoring Earth for reasons they hadn't yet revealed, and now they knew. Whatever this warship was, it was a threat to them. The signal had been a warning, and it was now clear. Earth's past was far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. The ancient warship was awake, and the Galactic Council was coming to claim it. The excavation site was alive with activity. Earth's military teams, led by Ethan Carter, had mobilized quickly to unearth the warship buried deep beneath the planet's crust. They had no idea what they were about to uncover, only that the signal from the ancient ship had triggered a series of events that no one could have predicted. Massive cranes and drilling machines worked tirelessly, breaking through the rocky layers of the Earth to reach the hidden structure. The Earth trembled as they dug deeper, and the closer they got to the ship, the more powerful the strange energy signatures became. Ethan stood at the edge of the site, watching as the massive structure began to emerge from the dirt and rock, its jagged silhouette casting an eerie shadow across the land. When they finally broke through the final layers of dirt, the warship was revealed in all its terrifying glory. It was unlike anything Earth had ever seen, colossal in size, its surface covered in intricate alien symbols that seemed to shimmer and pulse with a life of their own. The material it was made of was completely foreign, an alloy that humanity had no knowledge of. Yet, as they studied the ship, it was clear that it had been designed with incredible precision. far beyond the capabilities of any civilization on Earth. Ethan's heart raced as he approached the ship, the enormity of the discovery sinking in. This was a weapon, a relic from a forgotten era, hidden away for reasons they didn't fully understand. But one thing was certain: it was far too powerful to remain dormant. As the military teams set up a perimeter around the ship, Ethan felt a mixture of excitement and fear. The warship's power was undeniable, but what if they were unlocking something dangerous? What if the signals had been a warning? Just as the team prepared to begin analyzing the ship, a new figure appeared in the distance. A woman, cloaked in a dark, sleek uniform, stepped into the camp. She moved with a grace and confidence that immediately drew attention. Her presence was unmistakable. Ethan turned to see who it was, and his eyes widened as he recognized her. "Zarla," he said quietly, more to himself than to anyone around him. Zarla was not like the others. She wasn't human. She was an alien, a defector from the Galactic Council who had once been their ally. But now, she had chosen to stand with humanity. Her reasons for defecting were shrouded in mystery, and though her motives were clear, she carried a weight of guilt and pain that made her a reluctant ally. She had come to Earth with a single purpose: to help them understand the ship and its purpose. Zarla's expertise was unparalleled when it came to deciphering alien technology, and Ethan knew that she was the key to unlocking the secrets of this warship. As Zarla walked closer, the soldiers parted to make way for her. She stopped just short of Ethan, her eyes scanning the ship with a mixture of awe and wariness. Ethan approached her slowly, his curiosity about her past outweighing his caution. "I thought you were done with this," he said, his voice low. "Why come back now?" Zarla's gaze softened, and for a moment, she seemed almost lost in thought. "I had to," she said, her voice steady but tinged with sadness. "The Council is preparing to invade Earth. They've known about this ship for years. They've been monitoring you, waiting for this moment, but they didn't count on me." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "Invade?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Why? What's so important about this ship?" Zarla took a deep breath. "This warship is not just a weapon. It's a symbol of the ancient human civilization that existed long before the Council. A civilization that was more advanced than anything the Council has ever seen. The ship was built by them, and it's one of the last remnants of their power. The Galactic Council feared this technology, and that's why they kept Earth isolated. They never wanted you to discover it." Ethan's mind raced as the pieces began to fall into place. The Council had been hiding the truth from humanity for centuries, keeping Earth in the dark about its own past. But now, the truth was finally coming to light. Earth had once been the home of a powerful civilization, one that had created technology beyond the Council's understanding. And now, it seemed that humanity was about to awaken that power once again. "How do you know all this?" Ethan asked. Zarla's eyes darkened, and she looked away, a shadow of pain crossing her face. "I was part of the Council," she said quietly. "I was one of their highest-ranking officers, tasked with overseeing the exploration of primitive planets like Earth. I saw your potential, but the Council only saw you as a threat. You were nothing more than an insignificant species to them, something they could control. But now, I see the truth. Humanity is the one force they can't control." Ethan could feel the weight of Zarla's words, the burden of the truth she carried. She had once been part of the very organization that now threatened Earth's future. And yet here she was, helping humanity unlock the secrets of its own past. There was a bond between them, a shared purpose that went beyond their differences. But as the team worked to activate the warship's systems, the ground began to tremble. A deep, resonating hum filled the air, and the massive ship started to shift, its ancient mechanisms coming to life. Ethan and Zarla stepped back, watching in awe as the ship's systems activated, slowly coming online. A voice, deep and metallic, echoed from within the ship. "System activation complete. AI protocols engaged. Welcome, humanity, the rightful masters of this vessel. Ethan's breath caught in his throat as the ship's AI spoke directly to him. It was not just a machine. It was aware, sentient, and it recognized humanity as its rightful masters. But just as the AI finished its greeting, it paused, a momentary glitch running through its systems. Warning, the AI continued, its voice shifting slightly. An incoming threat detected. Galactic Council forces are approaching, initiating defensive protocols. Zarla's face hardened, and Ethan could see the fear in her eyes. The Council was coming for them. The very same organization that had once ruled the galaxy with an iron fist was now hunting humanity, desperate to stop them from unlocking the warship's power. Ethan turned to Zarla, his expression grim. What now? Zarla's voice was filled with determination. Now we fight. The warship is ours, and we will defend it, no matter the cost. As the AI's warnings grew more urgent, Ethan knew that this was just the beginning. The Galactic Council had underestimated humanity, but now they were about to learn just how powerful Earth could be. The battle for the warship had begun, and with it, the fight for humanity's future. But as Zarla and Ethan exchanged a look of resolve, there was something else, something more personal, beginning to develop between them. The warship wasn't the only thing that was awakening. The connection between them was undeniable, forged through shared struggle and the promise of something greater. Zarla's painful past, her defection from the Council, her secrets, and her newfound loyalty to humanity were all now intertwined with Ethan's own quest to protect the Earth. And as the ground shook with the approaching threat, the two of them realized that their bond was the one thing that could never be broken. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and humanity's fate rested on their shoulders. The Galactic Council had watched Earth from the shadows for years, quietly observing and calculating. It had always seen Earth as a backward, insignificant planet, a world with no true technological power or military might. But when Earth uncovered the ancient warship, everything changed. The Council's leaders realized that they could no longer ignore the potential threat. The warship, a relic from a lost human civilization, held power beyond anything they had encountered before. The Council knew it had to act swiftly before humanity could fully harness the warship's capabilities. A fleet of warships was mobilized, led by the Council's ruthless commander, Tiburon, known for his cold efficiency and willingness to destroy anything that stood in his way. His orders were clear: eliminate any threats to the Council's supremacy and ensure the warship never saw the light of day again. As Tiburon's fleet entered Earth's orbit, the vast armada of ships created a shadow that blocked out the stars. Ethan stood on the surface, looking up at the incoming fleet, his stomach tight with dread. The sky was filled with the ominous hum of their engines, and the first barrage of missiles began to fall, heading straight for Earth. "We don't have much time," Zarla said, her voice barely above a whisper. Her hands trembled as she worked the controls in front of her, trying to activate the warship's defenses. The ship was still in the process of awakening, its systems slowly coming online, but they had no choice. They needed to act fast. With a flick of her wrist, Zarla activated the warship's cloaking devices. The massive ship shimmered, its form becoming invisible as it blended with the surrounding atmosphere. It was a technique so advanced that even the Council's fleet would struggle to detect it. For the moment, they were safe, hidden from the Council's sensors, but only for a short while. Ethan watched as the first wave of Council warships began to descend on Earth. They unleashed a flurry of firepower, their weapons tearing through the air. The ground shook with the impact of their bombardments. Earth had never experienced anything like this before, but they had no choice but to fight back. This was not just a battle for survival, it was a battle for their future. But just as the warships began to close in, Ethan's heart sank. The first wave had already reached the surface, and the cloaking devices weren't enough to keep them hidden for long. Their position was compromised. "We have to fight back," Ethan said, his voice sharp. "We can't let them win." Zarla nodded, her eyes filled with determination. I know. The warship's systems are ready. It's time to show them what humanity can do. As the cloaking device flickered, the warship came to life. Its massive engines roared to life as its weapon systems powered up. The ship's advanced targeting systems locked onto the incoming council ships, and before they could react, the warship unleashed a devastating blast. The energy from the blast shot across space, sending shockwaves that obliterated one of the council's destroyers. The ship's massive hull crumpled like paper under the intense force, and the destroyer exploded in a brilliant burst of light. The impact was felt across the battlefield, sending shockwaves through the atmosphere. The remaining council warships hesitated, stunned by the sheer power of the warship. But their commander, Tiburon, was not one to back down. He ordered his fleet to regroup and prepare for a counterattack. Back on the surface, Ethan watched as the sky lit up with a barrage of explosions. The warship had delivered its first strike, but the battle was far from over. The council would not be easily deterred. They had more ships, more firepower, and an entire fleet prepared to strike. But humanity had one thing the council didn't: resolve. As the council began its counteroffensive, Ethan's team on the ground was caught in the crossfire. They were ambushed by a second wave of enemy forces, and the situation quickly escalated. Ethan's heart raced as explosions erupted around them. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and he heard the familiar sound of gunfire and screams. The humans fought back, but it was clear that they were outmatched. Ethan's eyes scanned the battlefield as he led his team through the chaos, trying to avoid the incoming fire. But then, the worst happened. Bonner, one of his closest allies and a skilled soldier, was struck by a blast. Ethan watched in horror as Bonner fell to the ground, blood staining the earth beneath him. The once strong and reliable soldier lay motionless, his body broken. "Bonner!" Ethan shouted, rushing to his side. He tried to apply pressure to the wound, but it was no use. Bonner was gone. The death of Bonner sent a shockwave of grief and rage through the soldiers. They had lost one of their own, and the anger was palpable. This wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. It was a fight for justice. The humans were no longer fighting out of fear. They were fighting for vengeance. They would not let the council take away what was theirs, not without a fight. Ethan gritted his teeth and rose to his feet, his heart burning with fury. "We're not going to let them win. We fight for every soul we've lost, and for every person still standing." With renewed determination, Ethan rallied his soldiers. They couldn't afford to lose any more ground. Every moment mattered. Meanwhile, the warship continued to unleash hell upon the council's forces. Its advanced weaponry, far superior to anything the council had ever seen, fired with precision, tearing through the enemy fleet. Ships exploded in a spectacular array of fire and debris as the warship's powerful lasers and missile systems hit their marks with devastating accuracy. But the council wasn't done yet. As the warship fired, the remaining enemy ships launched orbital bombardments, their weapons slicing through the sky like streaks of light. The entire surface of the battlefield lit up as explosions erupted in every direction. The warship's defenses took the brunt of the blows, but even with its advanced systems, it wasn't invulnerable. Ethan's team continued to fight, knowing that the fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. With each blast, the stakes grew higher. The warship's power was humanity's best hope, but they needed to make sure it didn't fall into the wrong hands. "Hold your ground," Ethan shouted as he moved to the front lines, his soldiers following in his wake. "We're not losing this war." In that moment, the war was no longer just a battle for survival. It was a battle for everything Earth had ever stood for. Every life lost, every sacrifice made, would be for the future of the human race. And with the warship now fully operational, humanity had a fighting chance. But as the battle raged on, Ethan knew that this was just the beginning. The Council had underestimated Earth once before, but now it would learn the hard way what humans were truly capable of. The warship was humanity's weapon, and it would not fall without a fight. The first wave was only the beginning. and Earth was ready for whatever came next. The war between Earth and the Galactic Council had escalated into an all-out conflict. The initial waves of attacks from the Council were just the beginning. Earth's forces, though vastly outnumbered, had something the Council didn't anticipate, a secret weapon buried deep within their planet, the ancient warship. When the ship's systems fully activated, humanity's power was no longer something the Council could easily dismiss. With advanced cloaking devices, planet-killing weapons, and AI-controlled defense systems, Earth's forces were now in possession of technology so powerful that it shifted the balance of the war. The Galactic Council had underestimated the power of Earth's ancient warship, and now they were paying the price. As the Council sent reinforcements, hoping to overwhelm Earth with sheer numbers, they found themselves facing a force that was far more dangerous than they had imagined. The warship's cloaking devices made it nearly impossible for the Council's sensors to track, allowing the human forces to strike with precision and surprise. The warship's advanced weaponry, capable of destroying entire fleets with a single shot, made Earth's forces a formidable adversary. But even with the advantage of superior technology, the humans knew they could not win by brute force alone. The key to their victory lay in their ability to outsmart and outmaneuver the Council's forces. Zarla, a former member of the Galactic Council herself, had intimate knowledge of the Council's tactics. She knew their strengths and weaknesses better than anyone. With her guidance, the humans began to exploit the gaps in the Council's strategies. Zarla's expertise proved invaluable as she helped Ethan and his team devise a series of strategic moves that caught the Council off guard. They disabled several of the Council's warships, taking out their shields and disabling their engines with well-placed strikes. Earth's forces, once outmatched and outnumbered, now had the upper hand. It was clear that the Council had underestimated the resourcefulness and determination of humanity. But the battle was far from over. The Council's commander, Tiburon, refused to back down. He was a ruthless leader, and his determination to crush humanity only grew stronger with each failed attack. In a desperate bid to turn the tide, Tiburon ordered a direct strike on the warship itself, sending his fleet of reinforcements to launch a full-scale assault. With the warship's systems at full power, Ethan knew it was time to go on the offensive. He gave the order to execute a high-speed, close-quarters attack, driving the warship directly into the heart of the Council's fleet. The warship shot forward with incredible speed, cutting through enemy lines like a knife through butter. The sheer force of the impact sent shockwaves through space, and enemy ships were torn apart as the warship plowed through their ranks. The chaos that followed was unimaginable. The Council's forces, caught off guard by the ferocity of the attack, were thrown into disarray. Ethan and Zarla led the charge, navigating the warship through the madness, making precise strikes against key enemy ships. The warship's weapons fired with deadly accuracy, cutting through the Council's fleet one ship at a time. It was a thrilling, fast-paced moment, a perfect example of humanity's ingenuity and bravery in the face of overwhelming odds. But the cost of victory was steep. As the battle raged on, Earth's forces suffered heavy losses. Another soldier, one of Ethan's close friends, was killed during the assault. The loss was devastating. Ethan felt the weight of every life lost, every sacrifice made, and every person who had given everything for the cause. The battle was taking its toll on all of them. It was in this moment of loss that Zarla experienced a turning point. She had always struggled with the guilt of her past, knowing that she had once been a member of the Galactic Council, a group that had viewed humanity as insignificant and expendable. But as she watched the humans fight, as she saw their resilience and determination, something within her shifted. She could no longer justify the Council's cruelty, and she could no longer stay on the sidelines. Zarla revealed her full allegiance to humanity, declaring her commitment to the cause. It was a moment of emotional reconciliation for her. She had once been a part of the Council's brutal regime, but now she was standing with the humans, fighting for their freedom. Her decision strengthened the resolve of the human forces, and they fought with renewed vigor. Together, they were more than just a team. They were a family, united by a shared purpose. With Zarla's inside knowledge and the warship's advanced technology, humanity's forces pushed forward. The Council's fleet was still formidable, but they could no longer ignore the sheer determination of the humans. As the warship's energy cannons fired, they cut through the enemy fleet with devastating precision. The powerful blasts obliterated enemy ships in seconds, sending debris flying in all directions. The Council's once mighty fleet was slowly being torn apart. Ethan and Zarla led a daring raid, infiltrating one of the Council's largest flagships. The ship was a fortress, heavily defended and well-armored, but the human forces were determined to succeed. They stormed the flagship, cutting through enemy defenses and making their way to the heart of the ship, the bridge. Inside the bridge, chaos erupted as Ethan and Zarla's team infiltrated the control room. The Council's officers were caught off guard, unable to mount a proper defense against the humans' relentless assault. The warship's eye-controlled systems gave Ethan and Zarla the advantage, providing them with real-time intelligence and tactical support. With the bridge destroyed, the flagship was crippled, and the Council's forces began to lose control of their own ships. As the flagship collapsed into chaos, Ethan couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph. For the first time in the battle, the Council was on the defensive. Humanity had struck a major blow, and the tide of the war was turning in their favor. But they couldn't afford to let their guard down. The Council would retaliate with everything they had left. The battle for survival was far from over, but humanity had proven that it could stand up to the Galactic Council. With each victory, they drew closer to their ultimate goal, freedom from the Council's tyranny. The war had stretched on for what felt like an eternity, and humanity was facing its darkest hour. The Galactic Council had thrown everything they had at Earth, sending wave after wave of reinforcements, but despite the odds, humanity had held strong. The ancient warship, once hidden deep beneath Earth's crust, had turned the tide, giving humans the chance to fight back. Now, however, the Council's response had become even more desperate. With their fleet decimated and their forces in disarray, the Galactic Council was not willing to let humanity win. In a final act of desperation, they launched their ultimate weapon, an enormous eye-controlled warship. This was no ordinary vessel. It was a machine of unimaginable power, controlled by an advanced artificial intelligence that was capable of coordinating entire fleets and executing strategies faster than any human could. The stakes had never been higher. The Council intended to obliterate Earth's defenses once and for all. As the eye-controlled warship approached, the human forces braced for the worst. The warship was an unstoppable force, and its massive weapons could easily wipe out Earth's remaining fleet. Yet, humanity refused to give up. They had fought for so long, endured so much, and lost so many. The thought of surrender was not an option. Amid this overwhelming sense of doom, Zarla, the alien defector and former Council member, emerged with a plan. She knew the Council's systems better than anyone. Zarla had been instrumental in helping Ethan and the others defeat the Council's forces so far, but she understood that the final battle would be different. She would have to do something drastic, something that could turn the tide one last time. With a determined expression, Zarla volunteered for a dangerous mission. She would plant a virus within the eye-controlled warship, crippling its systems from within. This would give Earth's forces the chance they needed to strike back. The plan was risky, and the odds were slim, but Zarla had always been willing to sacrifice herself for the greater good. She had already lost so much: her family, her home, and her honor as a member of the Council. This was her chance to redeem herself, to make sure humanity survived. Ethan, knowing the dangers Zarla would face, tried to dissuade her. He couldn't bear the thought of losing her, especially after everything they had been through. But Zarla was resolute. She had made her decision, and she wasn't going to back down. As Zarla made her way toward the enemy warship, Ethan watched helplessly, filled with dread. He knew that the mission would be nearly impossible. The AI-controlled warship was heavily guarded, its defenses impenetrable. But if there was even a slim chance, Zarla had to try. Time was running out. Zarla managed to infiltrate the warship, using her knowledge of its systems to bypass its security protocols. As she navigated through the ship, she planted the virus into the AI's central core. The virus was designed to destabilize the AI's control, causing its systems to malfunction. But as she activated the virus, the warship's internal alarms went off. Zarla was spotted. In the chaos that ensued, Zarla was gravely wounded. A blast from a council soldier hit her, and she collapsed to the floor. Despite the pain, Zarla managed to finish the job. She activated the final part of the virus, ensuring that it would spread through the warship's systems and disable its AI. Back on Earth, Ethan felt a rush of dread as the communications channel went silent. He knew something had gone horribly wrong. Desperately, he tried to reach Darla, but there was no response. Then, just as everything seemed lost, a message came through. Zarla's voice was weak, but it was unmistakable. The virus is planted. It's done. The council will fall. But I won't make it. Ethan's heart sank. Zarla had sacrificed herself to save humanity, and he couldn't bear the thought of losing her. But there was no time to mourn. The AI-controlled warship was now in disarray, its systems failing, and the Council's forces were beginning to panic. This was humanity's moment to strike. Fueled by grief and rage, Ethan knew he had to lead the final assault. Zarla's sacrifice could not be in vain. He took command of the warship, his mind focused on one thing: victory. With the virus disrupting the AI's control, the massive warship was now vulnerable. The human forces, once again, had the upper hand. Ethan gave the order to attack, and the warship's advanced systems roared to life. Using the cloaking devices, they infiltrated the enemy flagship undetected. The cloaked warship moved in close, evading enemy fire as it prepared for the final blow. The Council's forces, still reeling from the virus and struggling to regain control, had no idea what was coming. In a matter of moments, the warship launched a devastating strike. Energy beams tore through the enemy ship, and explosions erupted as the flagship's hull was breached. The AI-controlled warship systems collapsed completely, and the Council's final weapon was destroyed. The destruction of the flagship was the turning point in the war. The Council's forces, disorganized and leaderless, were no longer a threat. With the collapse of their most powerful ship, their will to fight shattered. The war was over. But the victory came at a tremendous cost. Zarla, the woman who had helped humanity so much, had given her life for the cause. Ethan, who had come to care for her deeply, was left with nothing but the memory of her sacrifice. In his heart, he knew that without her, humanity wouldn't have stood a chance. Zarla had given them the final weapon they needed to secure their survival. As the battle ended and the remaining Council forces surrendered, humanity stood victorious. But there would be no celebration. The loss of so many lives, the sacrifices made, weighed heavily on everyone. Earth had survived, but at what cost? Ethan, his face grim and his heart heavy, stood at the helm of the warship, staring at the remains of the Council's fleet. He had led humanity to victory, but it was a victory marked by loss. Zarla's final words echoed in his mind. The Council will fall. Humanity had stood its ground, and the Galactic Council had been defeated. The long battle for survival had come to an end, but the scars of war would remain. For Ethan, Zarla's sacrifice was a reminder that the true cost of survival was often measured in blood, in loss, and in the memories of those who fought for freedom. Humanity's last stand had been won, but it was a victory born of sacrifice, resilience, and the unyielding will to survive. The war had been long, brutal, and filled with losses. The battle between humanity and the Galactic Council had reached its peak, and now, the outcome was clear. The Galactic Council, once a dominating force in the galaxy, had been forced to retreat. Their fleets lay in ruins, and their once feared AI-controlled supremacy had been shattered. Earth had stood tall against the most advanced civilization the galaxy had ever known, proving that humanity was not to be underestimated. The warships that had terrorized Earth for so long were now drifting in space, nothing more than wreckage. The Council's forces, broken and disorganized, had no choice but to retreat. For the first time, humanity had asserted its place in the galaxy. They had fought not only for survival, but for the right to exist on their own terms. As the Council retreated, the people of Earth could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The massive threat that had loomed over them for so long had been vanquished. But the victory, though sweet, came with a heavy price. The scars of war were deep, and the wounds of the fallen would never fully heal. Many lives had been lost, and the cost of survival had been immense. Ethan stood on the deck of the warship, his eyes fixed on the wreckage of the Council's fleet. The stars twinkled in the distance, but there was a quiet sadness in the air. He had led humanity to victory, but the weight of that victory was not something easily carried. Zarla, the alien defector who had become his ally and friend, was gone. Her sacrifice had been the turning point in the war, and now she was forever a part of humanity's legacy. Zarla had given everything for the cause. She had planted the virus that destroyed the AI-controlled warship, allowing humanity's forces to strike the final blow. Without her, humanity would have been unable to defeat the Council. Her death had left a hole in Ethan's heart, one that would never truly heal. He had promised to honor her memory, and he would do so by ensuring that her sacrifice was not in vain. In the days that followed, Earth began the difficult task of rebuilding. The war had taken its toll on the planet, and there was much work to be done. But humanity's spirit was unbroken. The ancient warship, once hidden beneath the Earth, had provided them with the most advanced technology they had ever seen. Cloaking devices, planet-killing weapons, AI-controlled defense systems, these were now at their disposal. The warship's AI, once the weapon of an alien empire, was now a valuable asset to humanity. Ethan and the others began the process of integrating these new technologies into Earth's defense systems. They worked tirelessly, determined to make sure that Earth would never again be caught off guard. The Council had underestimated humanity once, and they would never make that mistake again. The ancient warship, once a relic of a forgotten civilization, was now the cornerstone of Earth's future. As the rebuilding process continued, news of humanity's victory spread throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Council, having tasted the bitter sting of defeat, began to reconsider its stance on Earth. For centuries, they had regarded humanity as a primitive species, nothing more than a fledgling race in the galaxy. But now, with their fleets shattered and their once unstoppable AI defeated, the Council was forced to acknowledge the truth. Humanity was far more than just a myth. The ancient power they had once dismissed was real, and Earth was a force to be reckoned with. In the quiet moments of reflection, Ethan often found himself staring at the stars. He thought about the future, about the possibilities that lay ahead. The war was over, but the journey was just beginning. There were countless worlds out there, and humanity had proven that it could stand toe-to-toe with the most powerful empires in the galaxy. There would be new challenges, new adventures, and new enemies to face. But humanity had learned one invaluable lesson. They were not alone in the galaxy, and they would never back down again. As the days turned into weeks, and then into months, the people of Earth began to rebuild not just their cities, but their sense of hope. The war had taken so much from them, but it had also shown them what they were capable of. They had defeated the Galactic Council, and now, with their new technology and the legacy of Zarla to guide them, Earth was ready to step into the future. But even as Earth's rebuilding efforts continued, a new message was sent across the galaxy. It was a simple message, one that came from the warship's AI, now fully integrated into Earth's systems. The message, broadcast to every corner of the galaxy, was clear. Humanity has awakened. The galaxy will never be the same again. The message sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Council had always believed they were the unquestioned rulers of the stars, but now they knew the truth. Humanity was no longer the underdog. They had awakened, and they were ready to take their place among the stars. The galaxy would never be the same, and those who had underestimated humanity would soon realize that Earth was not to be trifled with. Ethan stood at the edge of a vast balcony overlooking the Earth below. The planet was still recovering from the war, but there was a sense of peace in the air. The warships that had once threatened their very existence now hung in the sky as symbols of their victory. The stars twinkled in the distance, each one holding the promise of new adventures, new discoveries, and new challenges. Ethan looked up at the night sky, his heart filled with both sorrow and hope. Zarla's sacrifice had given humanity the chance to prove themselves, and now Earth had a future unlike anything they could have imagined before. The war was over, but the fight for humanity's place in the galaxy was just beginning. As he gazed into the stars, a thought crossed his mind. Zarla had believed in humanity when no one else did. She had given her life to help them win, and now it was up to Earth to honor her memory. They had won the battle, but the true test lay ahead. There was so much more to discover, so much more to learn, and so much more to do. The legacy of Zarla would live on, not just in the stories told of her sacrifice, but in the actions of those who had survived. Humanity was no longer the weak, helpless species that the Galactic Council had once thought them to be. They were now a force to be reckoned with, and their future was theirs to shape. The stars beckoned, and humanity was ready to answer. With their ancient warship as their guide, they would venture into the unknown, exploring new worlds, forging new alliances, and facing new challenges. The galaxy had been forever changed by their actions, and Earth was ready to take its place among the stars. The war was over, but the adventure was just beginning. Humanity had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same again.